And very pleased to introduce a special guest who is joining us now. He's the author of a New York Times bestseller, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, legendary consultant, strategist, played a key role in the election of Republican presidents Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, also instrumental in the 2000 Florida recount, responsible for the election of George W. Bush, and a friend and advisor to President Donald J. Trump. And his new book is The Making of the President 2016. Roger Stone is with us here in the Ringside program. Hey, Roger, welcome back to the program.
Jeff, thanks very much for having me.
Well, I have to say, I thought it was a tour de force yesterday. In a column you wrote, you likened it to Harry Truman when the president met the press yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump is a man who tells it like it is and tells you exactly how he feels and how he sees things. We've seen this unprecedented attack on him to deny his legitimacy as president, to call him insane because he doesn't want to go to war with Russia over Syria. No president since Richard Nixon has had this kind of abuse and these kinds of smears. And Trump is out. I mean, when he sees fake news, he's going to say it. And the folks over at CNN and CBS and all these other left-leaning mainstream outlets that are already suffering from severe power loss with, the alternative media becoming more and more prominent based on the technological changes of receiving your news on your handheld device rather than on your a television set. I think that revolution really played a key role in the election of Trump. The mainstream media monopoly on the dissemination of political information has finally been broken.
And thank the Lord that it has been. Roger Stone with us, Jeff Crouere here. I talked earlier about what's been going on with General Flynn and the resignation of the National Security Advisor and the president now having to search for a replacement. I was disappointed to see him leave. I thought he was a good man, and I think he sort of was in line with the president's worldview. And my only concern, Roger, is that he could be bringing on people that don't really line up with his view on nationalism, America first, and dealing with the Russians in a way where we can cooperate with them, not have conflict.
I couldn't agree more, Jeff. I mean, General Flynn is a good man. He broke no laws. I suspect that he kept this conversation with the Russians, which was designed to set up a phone call between the Russian president and our president, completely appropriate, a secret because the president probably told him, look, feel out the Russians about a call, but don't keep it between us. So he probably took the president literally. He's a good man. He's done nothing wrong. This was procedural. He's broken no laws. He should have apologized to the nation and been kept in his position. The neocons and the foreign policy types from the Bush era are chortling about their successful effort to get Flynn. But the president has at least, I think, cleared his name by saying, look, he's a good man, and this whole thing was unfortunate.
I'm worried about some of the people that are coming on board. I'm seeing a communications director who has got ties to Karl Rove.
Yeah, and this is absolutely outrageous. Reince Priebus really isn't up to this job. He is flooding the Trump administration with these party regular hacks who don't know anything about Trump or his positions, have no loyalty to him, and so on. I really think it is problematic and destructive.
I was thinking that maybe
being the greatest single manifestation, of course.
Yeah. I was thinking, Roger, that maybe there's sort of a parallel during the Reagan administration where you had sort of competing people that were close to the president, Baker and Deaver and Meese, and they sort of represented different wings of the party, different points of view. And is that what Trump is trying to do, bring on people that are sort of at loggerheads, and then he sort of decides what's best?
Well, in all honesty, when Jim Baker became President Reagan's chief of staff after managing George Bush's campaign, the first thing he did was to hire high-profile Reaganites like Len Nofziger and Faith Whittlesey, Drew Lewis, and others. And that bought him a lot of credibility with the Reagan people, even though he, Jim Baker, had not been for Reagan. In this administration, Reince Priebus has gone out of his way to ignore the resumes of many very solid, capable, experienced Trump supporters, and instead filled the White House staff with establishment regulars who have no loyalty to Donald Trump. And worse than that, Jeff, leak like a sieve. Leaks that make the president, I think, look very bad. And that's despicable. I mean, I understand the strategic leak, but when you are leaking in order to aggrandize your own position or to suck up to a reporter, I think that's a problem.
What about Roger? And you know a lot about this. The intelligence agencies and their dealings with the press. Are they going behind the back of the president? Can he trust what they're telling him? I've read that some believe that there's sort of a soft coup in place here, where they're trying to really bring down President Trump. Your thoughts?
I think that's a real possibility. The only person at the Central Intelligence Agency who is loyal to Trump, of course, is the director, because the president has not filled any of the other positions. Therefore, the Obama holdovers in the second and third level of CIA still have authority, still have access to all the information, and are leaking in an effort to make the president look bad or destabilize him. This is highly illegal, by the way. Why were they eavesdropping on General Flynn to begin with? He's a distinguished American patriot. Why were they spying on him? And why did they release the results of that spying, which is a federal offense, punishable, with 10 years in prison?
Do you think Roger will ever get to the bottom of who did it and be able to take action against these people?
I think former CIA Director John Brennan is the ringleader. I think his former colleagues in government are leaking to him. It is whether this can be proved or not, I don't know. But if there is an investigation into whether the Russians improperly tried to influence our election, that investigation should include John Brennan and those who are making this allegation without, any proof or foundation. That should be part of the investigation. I don't fear an investigation. I had no Russian contacts. I had no Russian influences. I didn't speak to anybody from Russian intelligence or the Russian state. And I'm quite confident about that. Neither Donald Trump or Roger Stone has anything whatsoever to fear from a full investigation into whether there was Russian influence in the Trump campaign, because there was not.
And that, I think, is the important distinction, because if there were contacts during the transition, that would seem to me, Roger, to be totally appropriate. I would want my top people to be establishing contacts with the Russians, because that's one of the important relationships that a new president is going to have, correct?
Well, and they criticize the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, for having a relationship with Putin. I think having a relationship with Putin is valuable. We need to start talking if we're going to negotiate some kind of appropriate peace, kind of plan to live together rather than spending our money trying to annihilate each other through nuclear war.
Roger Stone is with us. The book is The Making of the President, 2016. I was asking you about when we lost you, Paul Manafort, and his role in the campaign and the connections that supposedly he had with Russia and the controversy. And I know the president addressed it in the news conference yesterday.
Paul Manafort has never worked for the Russian government or the Russian state. He worked for on a Ukrainian political campaign, which was entirely legal and appropriate. He also has said very forcefully in a statement yesterday that he has had no contacts, knowingly or unknowingly, with Russian intelligence or the Russian state. He was an usher in my wedding, a friend of mine since college, and someone that I believe when he denies this. I have also denied it. I'm told the president addressed both of these yesterday, defending Manafort by name, pointing out that I had, on the Today Show yesterday, vehemently and specifically and categorically denied the claim that I had any influence or contacts from Russian intelligence or the Russian nation.
Roger, I see this whole thing as a creation of the media, the Democrats, to try to, of course, excuse Hillary's loss, to try to malign the new president, harm his agenda, discredit him, create a controversy. I saw some breathless reporting yesterday claiming that this was another Watergate. You know a lot about that. You were involved with Richard Nixon. Is this another Watergate?
Well, only in the sense that the CIA's involvement in Watergate and taking Nixon down, as I describe in my book, Nixon's Secrets, has largely gone publicly unexamined. And the CIA is trying to do a coup here to unseat or destabilize President Trump. He should not, given their track record, trust the folks at the CIA. They lied about torture in Iraq. They lied about weapons of mass destruction and Saddam Hussein. They lied about Iran-Contra. They lied about Vietnam. They lied about Guatemala and Chile. That's what they do. They lie.
So I don't know if you've talked to the president recently, but if you did, I guess you would issue a warning to him, right? To be careful, tread carefully through all these issues.
Well, I can't and I won't disclose private conversations that I may have with the president from time to time because he has the right to get advice or ask questions unfettered. And frankly, the leaking in this White House designed to hurt him and embarrass him by the established Republicans is bad enough. But I think that he has come to grips with the idea that the Central Intelligence Agency, after all, he went out and spoke to their headquarters in Langley, but I think perhaps he has figured out that they do not wish him well and they are not unbiased.
Rogers, we look now at the first almost month here of this administration. How would you grade it?
Too early to say. I mean, frankly, 3 weeks do not a presidency make. Trump is not a career politician and does not have deep experience on the political angles, but he is a manager, and he will get a handle on a workable White House staff and administration. But for example, our labor secretary, who was forced to withdraw yesterday, this is a gentleman who was selected by Reince Priebus, the Republican National Chairman. Mr. Trump does not really know this gentleman. He interviewed him. He took the word of others, but to imply that Andy Puzder was somehow an intimate of Trump would be false. My best advice to the president would be appoint only people who supported your candidacy prior to the convention, not after the convention, prior to the convention.
I think that's great advice. Because those people are loyal and those people have been with you from the tough times, not just Johnny come latelys after the nomination. Hey, in our final few minutes here, tell us about the making of the president, Roger.
Well, this book really answers the question about whether there was Russian hacking or interference in our election in great detail. It's an intimate, I'd say an insider's analysis of how Donald Trump pulled off the greatest political upset in the history of American politics. There's a lot in this book that I think will shock people about this election and why it came out as it did. The book is doing exceedingly well, but if you want to know how and why Donald Trump won, you can get the book at Amazon or Barnes & Noble or InfoWars. It's called The Making of the President 2016, How Donald Trump Orchestrated a Revolution. Many thanks, Jeff. I appreciate being here.
Roger, look forward to having you back on and keep up the great work. Thank you very much. Roger Stone with us here on the Ringside program. Hey, let's take a time out now. We'll go get a news update, and then we'll come back with your phone calls, 504-556-9696. Also, another special guest joining us, Donna Carol Voss, our Ringside All-Star, blogger, commentator, columnist, author extraordinaire. So a lot more to get to.